Hey everyone, we got Lord of the Seas Nichol yesterday, and today, as per usual, it is time to review the latest unit we've gotten. Sadly, there were no animated unit GIFs available for Nichol, so we have to make do with what we've got. But yeah, let's get right to it because the current week is super boring, there's nothing to do other than talking about Nichol. So in his base form, he is a support unit and really only a support unit. And in his Brave Shift, he still is a fully fledged support unit, but he also gains a few water evocation chains. Well, actually just one, but he can imbue the party with evocation flood chains as well. So let's take a look at his abilities. I did pull the unit. Hopefully you saw that video of mine yesterday, which was super lucky. But yeah, I'm gonna wait to X+1 him, thus I cannot really showcase him in a on the target dummy. Wouldn't make much sense if I'm missing half the kit of his. So yeah, his base abilities, as you can see, there aren't that much. He's got more magic abilities than he actually has active abilities. And one of the key things about Nichol is actually his True Water Infusion. He has the same thing in his Brave Shift and a better amplification in his Brave Shift as well. But still, for a base form, this is already a 30% physical water amplification for all party members, as well as an all party member water imbue. Now, this already is way stronger than Luna Freya's, for example, water amplification. Hers is only 15%, meaning that Nichol, in his base form even, already amplifies Luna Freya's damage by quite a significant amount. He also has a full dispel, sadly not perfect dispel, on his sharp kick, but that's about it. So yeah, the base form is super unimpressive, honestly. He does have a lot of Evo magic, as you can see in his passives, but he's not really gonna use this, as he only has his flood chains, and those flood chains, or Cast Wave Awakened with Water, it's not a evocation based skill, so to speak. So the Evo stuff he has is pretty much useless for the base form. The limit burst at the bottom of the screen, as you can see, it is a perfect dispel for the enemy, and it's a perfect dispel for the own party, where you only lose the debuffs, meaning literally everything from imperils to ailments. You're gonna lose everything, which is pretty cool, but you keep your buffs, obviously. And 200% LB damage boost and 300% stat boost. None of these are really top of the shelf anymore. They're just okay-ish, and we'll see why in a second. So in Brave Shift, Nichol gains a few abilities, as you can see. He's got that Crashing Tides, which is his water evocation damage. 64x isn't that bad, honestly, but the main part is the 150 MP battery that he is in that skill, and it's 150 immediately and not after X turns, which most support units have. His one is immediate, and it's, for that matter, it is pretty sweet, honestly. He also has the Water God's Rage, which is a minor stat increase to 82 magic and attack, but it also is a killer buff to all party members, beast and aquatic, by 100%, physical and magical. The downside is, on the JP server, he has a 160 AoE beast and aquatic killer buff. That one got removed for the global version as of right now. Gumi said they would bring this back at a later point, but we all know what happened with latent abilities and other ability awakenings. They never came true to life, so I'm not holding my breath for the EX+2 and EX+3 abilities that Lord of the Seas Nichol had. And lastly, there's his True Enhancing Stance. Cures attack magic, increases attack magic by 300%, 30 LB gauge fill, which is good, but not enough for most units. And the kicker really here is it pretty much fills almost all MP. It's a 1k MP fill for the whole party, and it also enables Levia chain for the party, Quick note, the wiki says it's for all allies, but I believe the reality is that it's only for everyone except himself. So that is what the ability actually does. And another thing, it's Unleashed Evocation on the right hand side on the passives. You see the Japanese text with the water sign at the very beginning. This is a 25% imperil field and water imperil field for both sides. Sadly, both sides, I would have loved if this was only a single side, meaning the enemy side, but it also affects yours. So keep in mind when you're fighting a water boss that is weak to water, but also uses water himself, you're also imperiling yourself with that. Right, and his Brave Shifted LB is pretty much what makes him so special. And it's a 45 water amplification, physical and magical for all allies, and 350 stats for all allies. Both of those are super good. And for that 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on when we get Final Fantasy VII with Aerith, he's gonna be the top dog. And for that 1 week, he's also gonna be the water meta. But honestly, we all know that Aerith is coming, and Aerith has 400 stat buffs, she has 45 light, and if I'm not totally mistaken, fire amplifications. So it's 2 is greater than 1. Fire and light are also more used than water. So yeah, I feel like it's a pity. His 250 LB boost is something that Aerith also has, but again, for the time being, this is pretty sweet, not gonna lie. So yeah, let's move on to the Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. The short version is both are bad. The Trustmaster, it is one of the better LB fill rate materials, don't get me wrong about this, but 100% confuse and 30 water resistance is like, nobody cares about that. We've got Determined to Face the Empire or something like that, Thoughtful System Maria, I know it's an STMR, or Brain Teasers, which is also an STMR, but those have 200%, and I feel like, why use a TMR if you have STMRs? Obviously, not everyone's gonna have the Super Trustmaster, and for a Trustmaster reward at 100% LB fill rate, this isn't all that bad. But yeah, I feel like the stats that are on it are just not worth it. And it will have very rare usage outside of Dark Visions. Also, my voice is almost gone. The Super Trustmaster are gloves, and they have the weirdest stat allocation. We have 42 defense and 64 spirit on a unit that scales with magic. Somebody please enlighten me why they thought this was a cool idea. I mean, the 50% beast and aquatic killer, physical and magical, they are great, but this item is only really useful for Shuyu or a DPS build Melia. Nobody else is gonna use this, honestly. So I feel like this is a total waste. And ideally, you want neither. I'm not really sure I'm gonna get his Trustmaster or Super Trustmaster. I mean, I will get his Super Trustmaster eventually, but I will never use either of them. So, Let's move on to the Vision card. The Vision card is another case of these, what were they thinking? Like, the levels at level 10, it's 800 base HP, which is cool. It's 80 base magic and 80 base spirit. Now, why it has 3 different types, I don't know. But what's worse are the passives. Now, who needs 20% magic points? I mean, I understand that we are getting Aerith, and Aerith has crazy scaling on Holy, if they rework it again on Global, that is. And that might be cool for her, but you're losing out on so much damage using this Vision card on Aerith compared to her own. So I don't really understand the point of this Vision card, honestly. And the passive level 10 ability, just resistance, it doesn't feel right at all. So it may be a good card for Clash of Wills due to the wide variety of the base stats. We really do need, we needed Spirit and HP a lot. In this particular Clash of Wills, but we may not so need this for the next one, for example. Nobody knows right now. But it's a trash tier card for Dark Visions with highly questionable passive perks. And honestly, I can see maybe some use for trials where you don't have Phasey, don't have Melia, for example, and the only magic tanks you have are Snow and, say, Diverty. This would be a good card for them. But honestly, trials are not no content anymore. There's one trial awaiting us, and that one is a complete joke where you don't even need a tank. So unless you haven't been keeping up your tabs on trials, this is a completely useless vision card, even though the animation is pretty sweet. So yeah, usually here we talk about damage comparisons or etc, but it doesn't make really any sense to compare damage because Nichol is not a damage dealer. So what he does, he's the literal board's equivalent when used in water teams, as he really greatly amplifies any water DPS's damage. And I did the math on Luna Freya here, because Luna Freya is a great showcase where she only has her 50% amp innately and really needs outside sources to shine. And here, as you can see, Luna Freya, the usual build. I do have a build of Luna Freya on the next slide, don't worry. And yeah, she deals roughly 1 billion 39 million at the usual gearing with TRS 135 Water Amp Peril, a 300% magic buff, which is her own, and her own amplification. Still very good damage, don't get me wrong, and we are still looking at a 22.5k spirit boss with 60% passive spirit and 60% elemental resistance. That is all the same. Now, if you put in Nichol with his 45% water amplification and the 25% water field, and excuse me for that mistake, I mean, we are only applying this to the enemy side of things. Obviously, it also applies to the party itself, but we're only looking at the enemy side things. I should have maybe made this more clear, but anyway. And thus we are reaching a 160 water imperil on the enemy. And yes, even if you LB in shift with Luna Freya, she will take into account the imperil before she deals damage. So the damage of hers is decided the moment you click the LB. And her own amplification, or the field that she puts up, does not affect the imperil field. So technically speaking, if you were to fire every single DPS on your team while the imperil field is still up, everyone's gonna take effect of this field. However, any unit that deals damage after Luna Freya was clicked or set up the field, they are gonna use Luna Freya's field. Which, I mean, it's still the same percentage at the end of the day. 25% field Luna Freya versus 25% imperil field. But I haven't really done the math which one is better. But as can be seen, Luna Freya herself has a far higher damage range, because she does not take effect, or she cannot use her own water amplification from the field, because that does not apply to evocation damage, sadly. So as you can see, she suddenly deals 1.6 billion damage, which is a 45.4 damage increase for Luna Freya, just because you're using Nichol, and that is a lot, and I like it a lot as well, and that gives her the number 2 spot in the damage chart for magic DPS. Vivi is still being number 1, but keep in mind Vivi has to have Steiner on his team. Thus, one could argue that you have to slash Vivi's damage in half because you have to use Steiner. But yeah, still Luna Freya, all of a sudden, just because one unit came around, she's the best evocation damage DPS again, which I like, which I think is great. And Nichol is also a great partner for Avalanche's Tifa, who is due within the next week or two, because she also makes great usage of the field imperil. She does have her own 50% water amplification on her Grandis, so the amplification from Nichol isn't really that much relevant. but the field in peril, that is the cool thing for Tifa as well. So yeah, also Tifa likes Luna Freya's LB, but it's hard, if not impossible, to set up both anyway. Alright, here's the aforementioned Luna Freya gearing. As you can see, the only thing that really changed is Minister's Code that's being used now. So she has 250 LB damage innately, we're buffing this by 300%, 350% magic boost, so yeah, great numbers, great damage, she's relevant again, and I'm happy about it too. So how does Nichol fare in the meta? We are getting a nerfed version, so to speak, of him initially, because he's missing his EX plus 2 passive, and the EX plus 2 passive, for those of you who don't know, it fills his LB by 60 crystals immediately at the start of the battle. Now, as you've seen, 60 LB fill is immediate full LB gauge, unless you haven't skilled his LB. If your LB isn't max level, he only has 2/3 of his LB filled. And the EX3 ability that is in his Brave Shift is a 160% aquatic and beast. I wrote Aquan Killer ability, but it's aquatic plus beast. So keep that in mind. And yeah, I feel like this sets a bad precedent because we don't get ability awakenings that often anymore, if not at all. And I have a feeling that Gumi is just gonna forget about this and leave him as is, and eventually we'll have just a worse version of Nichol. So yeah, Gumi created also another problem with no Titus enhancements, for example, who was also super good water amplification damage dealer. And yeah, now they're selling the solution, which is nerfed. But apart from that, he has a very, very good place in the meta for water teams. And any stage that wants you to use water, he has to be on the team to significantly boost the damage of your water DPS. However, I should also mention that he gets power crept by Aerith, not only by the stat boosts, but also that by the fact that she has 2 elements that she can amplify greatly, plus she deals a whole lot of damage, something that Nichol just cannot compete with at all. His usability for Clash of Wills, especially for the morale gauge, is questionable because most of his stuff is locked behind LBs, and if the trend continues that LBs make the boss buff himself, it's not a good outlook for Nichol in Clash of Worlds, but we'll have to see about that. Also, Lang has his stuff that he does, such as the magic damage reduction and physical reduction. She has that in her kit on a Grandis and doesn't need to use magic for that and use other abilities. Right, so should you pull? Well, he's not really relevant outside water stages in Dark Visions and Clash of Wills, and thus you can actually easily skip him without missing out, because Aerith has more amps, higher stat buffs, and is likely releasing next week, so yeah, there's no real reason to pull for him. With Lapis especially, I feel like tickets are okay, but I would really not suggest using Lapis for this. Also, relieved in a nerf state, less reason to spend Lapis on an inferior version, even if it's temporary. By the time we are getting his enhancement, who knows if it's next week, 2 weeks, or half a year from now. Especially if it's half a year from now, nobody's gonna care about Nichol anymore. And until then, he is just a worse version than JP has. And what I feel like is also part of at fault for this is we have no outline given for when we get his EX abilities. Just saying soon or sometime later doesn't cut it. Thus, skip and don't fall for this obvious bait here. But he is a nice off-banner unit to pull, or to pull with tickets, to be honest. And if you're going for Tifa or Sephiroth and you get Nichol from this, it's cool. And you're probably gonna be happy to have him on your team sometime down the line. But for now, it's whatever. And this completes the unit review for this week. Thank you all for watching. I do have 2 more videos planned for the weekend. One is going to release tomorrow, the other on Sunday. I haven't really decided on the order yet, but those are cool videos suggested by my Discord community, so join the Discord if you want to suggest other videos that we can explore, other topics. And yeah, have a nice rest of the Friday evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're from, and we'll see each other tomorrow for the next video. Bye bye.